everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Kendo, the Farm Plug.
Yo, this is Kayla, better known as Camper K.
Gang, gang, super squad.
What's
all
up?
the way out.
Doing?
Yeah, I'm well. How are you? Where you at today?
Austin, Texas. That's where I reside.
Gang. Super gang. All right, so you got some news? You want to kick us off with the news?
Yes, I have a couple news stories. So first, I want to talk about Meg the Stallion, another Texas babe, amazing rock star, rap gang, amazing, beautiful woman. She had an op-ed in the New York Times today, and I just feel like I wanted to highlight it because the title was "Why I Stand Up for Black Women," and I feel like that's such a powerful title in of itself. And she just talked about all the different things that Black women face, that not only that we carry the vote in a lot of situations, but then we're end up victims. We're not listened to. Our body is policed more than anyone else. And that a lot of times we're stereotyped as angry and aggressive. And I know that's something both me and Candace can identify with. One of the quotes she said, "There's not much room for passionate advocacy for a Black woman." So that quote really struck me. So I was like, I had to highlight that, even though I know it's not completely food ag related, but we're talking about being today, and like, how can you be and exist and be at peace with nature if you can't even be at peace with yourself or your society, because everyone's hating on Black women. So yeah, that's one of my stories. The second story is a little bit more uplifting of Black women excellence. It is this woman named Sarah Minker. She created this company called Grow Intelligence, and it's like a data company that analyzes data associated with the food and ag industry to help predict commodities and stocks and help farmers invest in land. And she just realized there was a lack of data in the food and ag sector, so she decided to create a company to address that. So talking about Black excellence, like, that's a key example and inspiration to both me and Kanda. So I'm really happy to see her going out there and doing excellent things for the world. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is the World Food Program actually won a new Nobel Peace Prize. So I just wanted to highlight that, not to really promote the World Food Program to say they're doing an excellent job, but just say how important food is, and to kind of highlight that, starvation and food access is a huge issue. And they said in their article that they're using to stop hunger for being an exacerbation for war and conflict around the world. So it just ties into how food and access to resources is a big disruptor to peace, like here and internationally. So those are my little pieces of news for today.
I said you had a little sprinkle of everything in there. That was cool. It's a lot going on Earth today, girl.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, and definitely shout out Meg the Stallion, because Black women matter. Okay.
Yes, I love her.
So picking up, we're talking about that food piece. Well, we're tapping into that a little bit, but the news that I had, kind of piggybacking off of the innovation that you had pointed out, the Black excellence. Tuskegee University receives an artificial intelligence grant. So Tuskegee University is part of the White House initiative to establish 7 artificial intelligence research institutes and 5 quantum information science research centers. And they're going to use about $1 billion to do that, right? So they're spreading these out amongst different institutions. So I believe, so the $1 billion is meant to be spread out throughout the next 5 years. The NSF catalyzed a collaboration of federal agencies. So it's pretty much the Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, the Department of Agriculture. So that's an interesting collaboration there. But they launched the National AI Research Institute's program, and it's an investment into research and education is what they say. I won't lie, Earthseed, I'm a conspiracy theorist. So these are just some we definitely got to pay attention to, but I do think it's beautiful that they are, that we have the opportunity to directly get involved with things like this, because this is how you, I guess, stop evil things from being done in the world, because the innovation is going to happen. It's not something we can stop, but if we can be a part of it, then we can definitely help to guide the ethical background and the morality, or contribute to that process more. So that's that in a nutshell. Yeah, and my second story is about Trump, and it also came from the New York Times. He is funneling record subsidies to farmers ahead of Election Day. So for people who don't know what subsidies are, I'll probably explain this 40,000 times throughout the duration of the show, but I'm gonna keep doing it because subsidies is your money, it's taxpayer money, and it's pretty much like a grant from the government, right? It's a legislative action sector, and how you fit into a certain category, fit the requirements. So Donald Trump. So he's really known for these big, like the stimulus check, for example. These are real big acts of like patriotic appreciation for Americans. I feel like it's really just more for show than it is for actual benefit of all Americans, because grants like this totaling in about $46 billion that will be distributed amongst farmers that exist today. So they have not actually written out the stipulations for it. This is something that he's just talking about rolling out. But the American Farm Bureau has reported that debt in the farm sector is projected to increase by 4%, and that 4% will bring them the debt up to a $434 billion ticket that exists in the farming sector alone. And farm bankruptcies have continued to rise across the country. So when we were talking earlier before the show started, we was just saying, I was thinking that this would be a good time to get into agriculture, but depending on how the stipulations that they draw around this $46 billion, new returning and young generation farmers may not be able to benefit in a way that is conducive to more sustainable and regenerative farming techniques, right? So those are my two stories. I feel like my brain is all jostled and everything, but we're hanging in there. So it's a lot going on Earth, but those are two from me, two from Canberra K, for current events. Charmin or anybody who is listening in, Maria, do you have some
Sarah.
news? Sarah! Oh, you better get on here and talk to us. Tell us something. I know it's something going on the world.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, my friends, it's so beautiful to see you guys. I'm just enamored. You both. Oh, I'm here for it. I feel like I have no room to talk. I am here to support and listen and learn. And yeah, that article by Meg Thee Stallion was so good. So good.
Man, I have to check it out. I feel like a big loser because I haven't read it yet.
Never.
No, but we definitely but we still want to hear your input though, Sarah, because can you just at least introduce yourself, tell people who you are, like your background or something, because like, bitch, you cold. Sure. And we love you and we fuck with you and you down with the revolution.
Hey, look what I'm repping today actually too.
Yes. Yeah. Meeting you both was probably one of the best things that came out of that school for me. I studied human rights. I'm anti-imperialism, really anti-colonial models and systems, and really believe in revolution and not reformation. I don't think reform is the answer. And I think that is, extends across a lot of systems, but more so getting into agriculture and farming and beekeeping. And I think it's such an important topic to talk about subsidies, because in general, people have this fear of, how can we get healthcare? How can we get college relief? How do we get reparations? Where does that kind of money come from? And the money's there. It is just designated to corporations, oil subsidies. When we talk about farming, it's seldom ever communal farming or sustainable practices. And so I'm so excited for your guys' show and this podcast, and I'm fucking here for this.
Hey, thank you for joining. Oh my God.
Yeah, love you guys.
Thank you. Love you too, sis. For real. All right. So with that being said, right, today we're going to talk about B is for being. And I think, Kayla, thank you so much for being hip and being in the loop and for bringing Meg the Stallion to the conversation today, because sis clearly knows a lot about being a bad bitch. No, I'm just
Hey, B for that's
but
being a bad bitch.
no, like triple B, like for real. Today we're doing that. But what does being mean to you? Like, bad bitch aside, what does being actually mean to you?
Yeah, so that's such a big question. So I definitely grappled with that. And for me, it's just existing and breathing and acknowledging that, being aware of my existence, being in a place where I'm not letting what's happening in the world or what's happening around me define my existence. Like, being, for me, it's just being aware of my existence and allowing that alone to, take control and take, over all the noise and all the chaos that surround us on a daily basis. Yeah. So how about you, Kendo?
All right, I'm trying to like conserve my little phone from heating up, because it likes to do goofy shit. Nah, but when I think about being, I agree with you. It's almost meditative, right? It almost instantly puts me into a whoa. And the first question I ask myself, like, are you being or are you doing?
Or are you reacting?
Like, it's just like, it puts me in a place where I'm like, okay, I don't have to do a whole bunch of shit when I bring myself to a space, right? So I am a scholar, I am intelligent, I am all of these things. So just by showing up, and wow, it's so dope that even with you piece, you know what I'm saying? Like, just with us being there, like, the experience was dope. We got to bring something new. Everyone, it was just a whole new experience for everybody. I think we had a really unique class, really unique experiences, and even, I don't know, I think everything was just taboo at that time, and that's what being is about. Being able to reflect and like know where you are within a current frame, you know what I mean? Like, it makes me think about time, like being aware, being present. Like, I just got a new tattoo, and it's actually the Kanye West bear. I don't think I showed you. Did I show it to you?
I saw it on social media, I think.
I'm super thirsty.
Hey.
I'll show you. I don't know. I'll send you a picture, but it's the Kanye West bear with a thought bubble.
Yeah.
And the thought bubble has a present in it. So it's like his mind is on the present, and out of the box is a bunch of flowers. And it says, it ain't happy yet. And that's what intuition is. So even like by just existing, you feel things, and these things tell you things. So yeah, I'm big spirit gang. So it's a whole bunch with being that, like, yeah. I go to the astral zone and shit, so it's levels to being, essentially.
No, for sure. I guess for me, it's because my mind can take me in so many different places. I feel like for being, I need to concentrate in that current moment, in my relation to the world, in that moment, instead of thinking future plans and past what's happened, but like where I am now. And like you said, I am a scholar, I am intelligent, you know, those things that define me versus like what I want to do or what I have done.
So do you find that it's easier for you just to be in certain settings? Like how now, okay, so that's what being is, but now how do you be? Like,
Yeah.
how do you be?
Well, kind of going into, I guess, our second question is like being in nature or in your environment. You know, I feel like nature can be connotation of you have to be into the wild or in the wild or in forest, but like being in your environment. I feel like for me to really be in my environment, I have to listen to my environment and like what's surrounding me. So whether that's people in my family or whether it's the trees rustling in the wind or, you know, the birds singing, it really does depend. But I feel like so many times we get caught up in whether it's our phone or the news or thoughts in our mind, and we're not actually listening to that current moment or to the earth itself breathe, or, you know, our family members, you know, and their emotions and their feelings around us. So yeah, from being, it's definitely a listening and a stopping and kind of a silence, and taking yourself out of the situation in a sense.
Damn, G, you so poetic. That shit hit my heart. I'm like, oh, listen to the earth breathe. That's like air. That's the wind blowing. Oh my God. Yes. Like, well, I mean, I be in nature. Like, I be in nature. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even after living in Mississippi for a while, after living in Alabama for a while, then coming to Costa Rica and just being so, you know, the ants were inside. So nature was also amongst me there. It was no escaping it. And it was, sometimes I wasn't fucking with it, but other times it was like, damn, yo, like, this is earth. Like, I fuck with earth, you know? So, but even as I'm in the city, I find myself, my happy place is always Hako. Like that first time we went, I see that palm tree that's all sideways that we were sitting on. I see the palm pipe being rolled. Like I'm just instantly taken to a natural place, or Arenal with a volcano sitting there, just beautiful and statuesque and being unmoved and solid, but still so fluid and temperamental. Like I think it pulls. Like, I feel like nature shows me that it's okay for me to be however I am, whenever I am, like, however I am in that moment. And, like, especially, like, you know, bringing my bitch Megan back into it. I need to read y'all making me want to just stop and read this article. But to be a passionate advocacy, that is, I feel like I might have heard that before, but I really like that. I really like that. So that connected for me somehow, and I'm just gonna leave it right there.
No, that makes perfect sense, because I feel like a lot of times society doesn't allow us to be our full selves, you know? We have to curtail it, cut it, edit it, form it to whatever is professional. Someone was just talking about the idea of professionalism is drenched in white supremacy. Like what is professional, and who defines it, and how does it give that person power? So I definitely understand.
I mean, no, I mean, but like professionalism is exactly it. So when we're talking about being in nature, right? So how can we as like Black women be in our natural state in a professional environment when our hair, your hair as it is right now, or my hair and locks, both, depending on where we are, our hair could be considered unruly, depending on the day of the week, you know, considered unprofessional. So who, like you said, who gets to dictate that? And then why is it that I now have to, my nature then becomes compromised because I'm so busy, like I have to figure out ways to not be my natural self now for whatever reason something outside of me has imposed. But I say fuck that shit, honestly.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
Does that go into our third question? I feel like we're already leading into it, but the third, we're already going into it. But the third question is, how does the relationship between humans affect nature, or if nature, is that what it is? Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, it's the relationship with human beings and nature. Yeah. And naturally, I think that human beings can impact and are equally impacted by nature as
Yeah.
nature is by humans. So I think we kind of think that the relationship is unidirectional and it flows both ways. Like it's a power exchange.
Yeah. The reason I was bringing that up too is you're saying that we can't be in our own state of nature in a sense because of this critique or this societal pressure, white supremacy. It also affects our ability to be in commune with nature if we at ourselves can't be in a state of like balance and understanding with our own state of nature. How can we go out and be in nature and be in peace if we're not at peace with ourselves in our own natural state, if that makes sense, you know? So I feel like that is another way the bridge between us and nature is, you know, broken, because we're seeing natural, you know, how many times is our hair, our black hair, compared to animal, like a woolly sheep or something? You know, there's these certain things that natural or wild is assimilated or compared to untamed, unkept. Like the wild nature is unkept or uncultivated land. Like our hair is uncultivated or unkept, making it lesser than. Like that doesn't make it any lesser than. So I feel like that deeply, you know, another way that dissects and removes us from being at peace with true nature, you know. Mute. You're mute.
I was saying, like, it's like a negative, you saw me say fuck, did you? It's a negative spillover, right? If you can't respect Mother Nature and all of her like wildness and naturalness, then you can't accept women or people or culture and its wild, natural, and sometimes reactive, you know what I mean, state. And I'm saying reactive not like not thinking, but just like that automatic equilibrium that's gonna happen no matter what, right? So I think even what's going on socially right now is directly reflective of, you know, climate change. Like Earth is warming up, it's been warming up. People of color, Black people especially, been warming up. We've been getting hot. This is nothing new. These are not new conversations that are coming to light right now. The Me Too movement, how long have women, you know, been saying these things? And nothing is new that's being said. You know, it's just a matter of the way that it is received by those in power. So like I was saying, it's a power exchange, you know, but that vulnerability has to be respected. It's not something to be taken advantage of, you know? So like even in passionate advocacy, there's an element of vulnerability there, because I'm really letting you know how I feel. Like I'm really exposing myself on what I care about when I do that. And for Black women, it's so often that gets turned on us, where it's like, damn, this angry Black woman, like this angry Black bitch, like, you know, then you automatically. And then that does things like, I know for me, there have been times where it's like, you know, I got a deeper voice. My voice is heavier. So there were times in my life where I was like, damn, G, I need to just be quiet, because niggas is going to call me a man. I done been called all sort of shit. But like, you know, battling that suppression, that internal suppression, but knowing I have something to say that could be important and change people's lives or whatever it may be, you know, it's throwing me off now, you know? So being able to walk in that is something that I think Black people are definitely tired of having to figure out. Like these are questions, those are questions I was asking myself and things I was saying to myself that I shouldn't have had to do, because my voice is naturally this way. I naturally react. I talk with my hands. So how come when I talk with my hands, it's ding this or ding that? Why can't it just be dinged me and what I do and how I communicate and be received in that?
Yeah, it goes back to what we're talking about, professionalism too, or like this idea of professionalism, but then also like emotions as well. Emotions are a natural thing that naturally occur, that it's a gift that I would say that allows us to communicate even more sincerely and deeper. But for some reason, that natural response that our body has is deemed lesser than or less, sorry. Are y'all there? Sorry. Lesser than, it's deemed lesser than or less professional or less useful than logical thinking. Whereas I feel like since emotional intelligence is something so much more important and enriching that not everyone has. And it's a natural thing, you know? So it kind of goes back to this disconnect from our natural state. And that's kind of one of the core of the question: how has our relationship with nature changed over time? So I feel like because Black people have had such you know, chaotic and painful relationship with nature due to white supremacy and the slave trade, it can be hard for Black people to feel at peace, you know, in nature or with nature. But how do you see that changing, or do you see that changing, you know, moving forward?
Man, for Tuskegee, we do this thing called Earth to TU, it's virtual engagements, and you came right when we did. I'm sorry, someone's calling me. I'm sorry. Let me turn my do not disturb on. Okay.
Yeah, I was having the same issues.
I'm sorry. All right. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. But with the This Land documentary, pretty much looking at how, you know, when what was it, Brown versus the Board of Education, separate but equal, how that actually didn't only segregate schools, it segregated public parks and the beach, and you know, these are natural places. So it just makes me think like, damn, when I think about my happy place, it's a beach. You know, imagine not being able to go. And then how that contributes to, you know, my mental wealth and sense of well-being, and how if that deteriorates over time, then my relationships deteriorate. And then looking at the relationships that within our family, you know, how that has been kind of compromised in a lot of different ways. And I think it's really just from stress, you know, stress. And I think that Black people been under stress since we came over here, and a lot of that stress was directly related to our relationship and our knowledge around, you know, natural resources and earthwork and cultivation. And so it has kind of put us in between a rock and a hard place, right? Where it's like, damn, we have these skills that are ancestral, they've been handed down to us, we know how to use it. The land is tied up with so many thoughts and memories of oppression that it's almost that it turns to that. And then the way that people are looked at for being farmers, like farming is not considered a hot job, you know. It's kind of getting there, it's returning to that, but I think it's more out of necessity and the understanding, the education of people, than it is like people just waking up like, I want to be a farmer. Like, that's not what people are doing, you know?
Yeah. I would agree, because there's so much trauma associated with that. And, you know, it's literally called dirty work. So it's, you know, getting your hands dirty, hard labor. But the thing is, at the same time, there's so much glory and so much, you know, peace with working in harmony with nature. So, yeah. Well, the next question that we were looking at is, how does the relationship between each other, humans, affect the land? And I feel like that's a really important question. You were kind of touching on it before when you mentioned climate change. And
Oh, wait, I think somebody's in the waiting room. Is somebody in the waiting room? Why do people keep calling me, and why is it coming through? Man, okay, yeah, it was some people in the waiting room. All right, Jody's back. Oh, my son. Hey, my son. Thank you. He sent me a text message like, let me in the club. I'm like, what? People keep. Okay.
You want the question, or you got it?
Please, I'm sorry. Please repeat the question, because my phone is.
No, it's fine. So we're talking about, you know, the relationship with nature, humans' relationship with nature, but how does humans' relationship with each other affect nature and the atmosphere and the world in large? And you were mentioning a little bit about climate change and stuff like that, so I didn't know if you want to elaborate.
My bad, G. You know, that should be happening. But pretty much, I mean, you directly see it in climate change, right? Where agriculture contributes 25% of the greenhouse gases to the to greenhouse blah 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 to global warming. And understanding that if we shifted those practices not only have negative implications for the environment, but also for the people that get that food, who eat those products, right? And so when you look at how if we treated the earth better, we could treat each other better. Or the question could be, if we actually gave a fuck about each other, we would then treat the earth better because we understand how it's a common good and we all have to share it. So I don't know, that's kind of like a chicken or the egg type thing for me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's so many sides to that. I think it's definitely a reflective relationship, like how we treat the earth is reflective of how we treat each other and how we don't value each other and how everything's instantaneous. You know, we want it right now, instant gratification. And then, you know, when we get bored or it no longer has value to us, we discard it or no longer take care of it. So I feel like that's really reflective of definitely American culture, but a lot of cultures that create the largest amount of environmental harm. Let me say that, because you know there's a couple of countries that do the most polluting, the most environmental harm. But another aspect that a lot of people don't talk about as well is war and conflict and how that has a large impact on the environment. And a lot of environmental degradation comes from conflict or, you know, conflict scenarios or, you know, whether it's in a country or two different countries fighting against each other.
Like the atomic bomb. What good could that shit possibly do for any, like there was no purpose in creating that shit but to blow somebody up. And then when you think about the negative radiation that occurred for all of those people for years and years and generations down the line, when you look at the Vietnam War with Agent Orange and how that is the same, that was the beginning of pesticide.
Yeah.
So we're seeing war attack our food, and then we're wondering why there's a war going on between each other, and food and natural resources are tools in that war.
Yeah. I mean, even Puerto Rico was used as like a army training area, and so there's a lot of chemicals and environmental harm in that region left over. Yeah. It's a island of Vieques, I want to say, that was used for like, I don't know how many years, as like they were testing some type of chemical war weapons in that area. So, you know.
Jody said that's where Godzilla came from. I'm gonna need you to explain that. That shit just kind of blew my mind. That's why, what? Godzilla.
Yo, that's the when America bombed Japan. That's where like years later, like people like they weren't like overtly like it was a no-no to talk about it. How did you feel me? They got nuked basically. So the creator of Godzilla like created Godzilla. Godzilla is the physical embodiment of the bomb and what the surrounding effects. Like every time they talk about Godzilla in the original Godzilla movies, it's basically you know, I forgot the word, but you know, like the literary tool to use for the personification of something or an event or what.
Oh, metaphor.
So like that's where Godzilla comes from, and like people speculate that you know King Kong comes from America's racial prejudice and
I mean, that's
so like those two things.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
It makes sense. It makes so much sense, but I never knew that.
Yeah.
My mind just kind of got blue. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like, damn, Godzilla, that shit. Suddenly that movie just hits a little different when I see that. And but I mean, it's like a natural response to what humans did to other humans. So that's like.
Yeah, so it's like if we're gonna do that to other humans, imagine the harm that we do to an environment that has no ability to advocate for itself, you know, whether it's animals or biospheres or, you know, you want to talk about the ocean and plastics, you know, that's a whole nother depressing topic.
is more plastic in the ocean than there are fish.
Per pound. Yeah, that's just crazy. Is that current now, or is it going to be? I can't remember.
I think that's current. I'm pretty sure that's current.
Okay, damn.
But I was gonna ask you, do you think that stems from, I know in school they would ask us the question, are we a part of nature? Like, what is humans' relationship to nature? And where does the understanding of that relationship come from?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on who you're talking to or who you're asking. And so I would definitely advocate that we are a part of nature, and I would include us in that category. But at the same time, the reason we've gotten in so much environmental harm, I would say, is a lot of people don't see us as a part of nature. They see nature outside of themselves and a tool or a resource, like a natural resource for them to harvest, to use for our utility. So I feel like it was that mindset that's gotten us where we are. So I'm hoping that, you know, conversations like this and, you know, more education about the importance of, you know, the planet and our separation from nature. Yeah, like Sarah's saying, that, you know, the more that we learn about that, the more we can shift that narrative and people can you know, have a more holistic view of policies, environmental policies, or whether it's energy, water, actual agriculture, more holistic, you know, practices of cultivating crops, whatever it may be, as long as we think of nature and in the environment, including ourselves, I feel like we'll make better decisions, or I would hope we would make better decisions that we have made thus far.
Yeah, Sarah said the separation of nature and us is the result of capitalism. Sarah, you want to explain that a little more?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, just in a very reductionist way, I think you guys are touching on so many important points that are some of the biggest structural failures of capitalism. And more specifically, these are the results of colonial legacies, right? Like the method of conquering an area and exploiting resources and viewing worth only through a monetary lens is not just a colonial figure, but it's currently how the US and Western countries wage war on countries, right? But the domination and the commodification of the earth is also contemporaneous to the commodification and control of a woman's body, right? This perspective that, you know, you guys were talking earlier about professionalism and, you know, what is considered wild and untamed. And at our core, this taps into some of our most conditioned, bigoted beliefs of colonialism, that what you don't understand, you conquer. And it has so many reactions, right? Candace, you mentioned your voice and like how trying to fit into certain spaces because of understanding like what's available. I know I'm ranting right now, but just in essence, just to say this is all tied to capitalism, even the very notion of like individualism, which overlooks the fact that we are nature, we are an ecosystem, we are a part of this greater collective. Yeah. And until we, you know, reclaim that identity that I am not separate, just as the apple tree sprouts apples, you know, the earth peoples people. Like we are meant to be here.
Yes, that's why I'm like, I know you got something for us, man. I know it. Yeah, Jody, what about you? Do you think that you're a part of nature, or nature is a part of you, or what's your relationship to nature look like? Or do you have a relationship with nature?
Yeah, I think we humans, we just another part of the planet's ecosystem. Like the planet and nature is bigger than us. Like we act like we're bigger than nature, and we put in this mindset that we bigger than everything else and every other animal on the earth, when it's not necessarily true. Like I feel like climate change and everything that's happening is just nature's response and evolution to our evolution and mindset. Like, we created our environment. We created everything that's going to happen. So we're still a part of it.
I mean, to an extent, right? I mean, if you live in the city, then yeah, you did kind of create that environment was created. That's damn. I don't know that hit me a certain type of way when you said
No,
that. It's like we did, but we didn't, but we did.
at the same time, I really like that notion too, that you create your environment, because I feel like a lot of times and this is a new concept to me, but I saw an article talking about, you know, when this idea of wild, and when talking about colonization, when the conquistadors, or, you know, whatever, Europeans came here, they thought of this land as wild and untamed, when actually the Native Americans had ways of cultivation and keeping the land, maintaining the land. So just because, you know, your idea or the definition of maintaining or order or being balanced isn't the stereotypical cities or structured rows, or, you know, mass crop fields, like, just because it doesn't look like that doesn't mean it's not being maintained or cultivated, you know. So in a sense, you know, we do create our environment because humans have such an impact, you know. No matter where we go, we're going to have an impact on the land and an environment, even if we're living at peace and at harmony. So it's not bad inherently to have an impact on the land, because like Jody said, we are a part of the environment. We're going to make an impact, just like a wolf, you know, walking around eating a rabbit, shitting on the trail. He's making an impact. He's feeding, you know, the fungus. You know, like, everything has an impact. So we have to accept that we're going to have an impact on the land, but we got to choose what type of impact we want to make, you know?
And like, that's so powerful, from an individual scale all the way up to social change. You know what I'm saying? Like, the potential to have an impact is so empowering. And it's something that I think can be so sparked in nature. While I'm here in Chicago, I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, last year I was working with these brothers that been in jail. They done been doing all sort of things, and to see them planting sunflowers was like, you know, a lot of them, it took them back to when they was with their grandmothers, and some of these 30 and 40-year-old men who knows what they done in that whole time between, you know, planting plants with their grandma and then being in this program with me. So, you know, just to understand, it's healing, it's empowering, it sparks entrepreneurship and problem solving. It just, being in nature is so positive. It's like, to not be able to be in nature, or to not have any nature around you, is just like, it's really sad. I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me about how Georgia used to have peach trees all downtown. Was that, were we talking about that?
That sounds familiar. And you could just take them off.
Yeah, you could just walk up and pull peach trees and pull peaches, right, I mean, downtown. But then over time, you think about it, Georgia's known for its peaches, so then it becomes, well, why we just gonna let them grab it off the tree when they could come buy it, you know? So
Capitalism.
Loud and clear, baby. So wait, I got a question. Here's a question. I got into this conversation yesterday with my stepmother and one of my good friends, and of course, the question of why we're talking about nature and balance and harmony and being in that, it's this notion of sustainable capitalism, right? That we can continue to exist, we can continue to exist the way that we are existing, and that over time, through technology or whatever, we will find a way to kind of mitigate the negative impacts that we have. So what are your thoughts? So I just this just hit my head. I'm like, what are your thoughts on that? Let's explore that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna dumb down the little bit of economics I know, because me and Candace took environmental economics class, and that was enriching, but also very struggling, very hard. Yes. So one of the best things that I learned that has stuck with me is there's idea of use value and non-use value. And in capitalism, there is no way to properly, capitalize or give a numerical value to non-use value items. Sorry, I'm tongue twister, but non-use value. So like trees or fresh water or a beautiful scenery, that's a non-use item. Like there's not an inherent number you can put on there. So the way the capitalist system works, we're not going to value that. If we can't get money out of it, if we can't get a use out of it, if we can't capitalize off of it, we're not going to value it. And if it's not going to be valued, it's going to be degraded, so no matter what form or Sarah was mentioning reformation, there is no reformation of capitalism in of itself. Is inherently, going to cause things to be, be reaped, be taken advantage of, to be used to the maximum amount of use, which is being
exploited.
Exploited. I was like, what's the word? Exploited. Yes. No, whether it's people, whether it's natural resources, whether it's, whoever's on the other side of the equation, for someone to gain wealth or capita, someone is going to be exploited on the other end. And whether it's human beings or nature, that's not how we should be moving forward, in my opinion.
Sarah said exactly. Everything is reduced to its monetary value. Exactly. And the sad part is, with human beings in our limited notion, right? Like Jody said, like we just think that we bigger than everything out here. But the truth is, even if we could put a number to the use value of nature, the number would not be correct, right? Because we have no way of predicting what this tree is actually doing for us when we're not looking, when we're, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it's sequestering carbon, but what else is it doing? How is this tree providing a home to this squirrel, which is providing food for this wolf, which is actually keeping that whole ecosystem balanced? You know what I mean? And then if the ecosystem is balanced, that's clean air, that's clean oxygen that people can breathe. So that's less heart disease, lung cancer, asthma. Now that's less people dying. Now, how do we put a value to that? And it's like, my homie Mashawn out here in Chicago, he's got a place called Trap House Chicago. And he has a campaign that's called Crime Pays. And he has a shirt, and on the back of the shirt, he pretty much lists everybody that gets paid when you go to jail or when a crime is committed. And it's like, it's a whole system. It's the police that get paid, the ambulance that get paid, the coroner, the funeral homes, the you know what I'm saying, the ambulance, the firefighters, because they show up. And if you're getting firefighters, you're getting gas companies. Like, these are all these different layers to a capitalist structure, right? And we have to think about this before people just come to us talking about, oh yeah, you can do what you, and I think sometimes it's the not limited nature, but it's our fear of change, right? That keeps us from being willing to make the necessary changes and sacrifices that need to be made for everyone to have a fair shot at equitable lifestyles and environments in the 21st century. That was hard. I was fighting that everywhere.
No, that was great. And that's another thing that I always tell people, when I get in a conversation about capitalism, there's always someone profiting on the other side of it. Like, it's never just bad policy or they made a mistake. Like, this is intentional because someone is making money off of other people getting hurt or other people having lack thereof or whatever it may be.
Lobbyists. There are people who get paid to be in DC every day, all day, to advocate for the interest of Fortune 500 companies. They follow these congressmen, they follow them to their homes, they follow them to the Hill, they follow them to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they take them out to dinner dates, they take them to titty bars, they do all these things. If you watch P-Valley, then you already know. shit is going down. And I've been watching P-Valley, and let me tell you, it is so amazing because it's about this strip club that's in the Delta of Mississippi, and the strip club is conveniently located right next to the river, to the Mississippi River. So it's prime real estate. And there's a casino that wants to come in and purchase this land, and they don't care none about the people who are there. They don't care anything about the environment. They don't care about none of that. It's like, this is an opportunity, and we want to take advantage of it, period. And, you know, there are different people in the city that are contributing to this takeover of their town, and they're saying like, oh, well, it'll bring jobs, it'll do this, it'll do that. But the truth is, you know, the truth, it's exploitation. That's what it is. These people don't have jobs, so let's just come and get them any job we deem necessary, even if it is, you know, casinos. We'll give it to the education, which all the money you put in towards that casino could have went towards better schools and better education. But it's, you know, it's the way that money is. It's not the what, it's the how. It's always the how. And it was, hold on, I want to read these comments because we had some people make it. They said there's probably more money in death than life. Damn, Jody. Definitely. Wow. And Sarah said, exactly. Communities don't own land under capitalism, only those with power. Exactly. And there was one more thing I wanted to touch on, that with sustainable capitalism that really irks me, if I gotta be honest. It's just the condoning of excessiveness and overconsumption that it puts across, right? So yeah,
like,
you can
make a change. We don't need to change.
exactly. And it keeps you comfortable, which seems like a good thing at the time, but in reality it is stunting you. It is not empowering you. It's keeping you in a controllable state. And it just makes me think, like, I'm telling you what, Adrienne Marie Brown, after I read Pleasure Activism, it has, like, it continuously, it's a challenge for myself, like, and that's what I'm saying, like, from an individual scale to a societal scale, we're talking about making change. Like, you have to be willing to imagine a place and a society and policies that are conducive for everybody. And it's more than just society on the line. It's kind of like your soul, if you get down like that, like your ability to be able to imagine a world where you can win and your neighbor can win and everybody can eat. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't imagine that, it's really kind of scary. And I think we live in an era where when you say things like sustainable capitalism, that's what you really are saying. Like, you're saying all of these things with these two words next to each other being thrown around so willy-nilly, but you don't even, the average person, I don't think they think about all of the levels of the repercussions behind that way of thinking.
Yeah, Sarah just said exactly. And what is ethical capitalism? It's still contingent on consumption. So it kind of goes back to your point, like, it's based on consumption. So at the end of the day, people are prioritizing their need for consumption over actually helping others, because while you're consuming, there's 15 other people who don't have food, who don't have a house, that are homeless, like, or, you know, don't have access to clean water, which, you know, we want to talk about global issues. That's a UN mandated human right, but like, how many people don't have access to free water, or not free water, but accessible and clean, safe water?
Mm-hmm. And that, see, and even with that, like, I just, so like now what's going on, this is another piece of news that I don't think we touched on, but what's going on in Nigeria, police brutality campaign, the NSARS. I forgot what SARS stands for, but I know it's like the national, like they were having armed robberies and gun control, and so they're like a local police force, but pretty much they going crazy. They're abusing their power. And understanding how capitalism, for example, when you know, in Baltimore, when who was it, Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and they burned down the CVS, and they were covering the CVS, they're covering the burnt property, or Breonna Taylor, for example, where you can literally kill someone, but you don't go to jail for the human life that you just took. You go to jail for the damage to the property that you created. Like, what message does that send, and how does that echo throughout the earth, you know? But I think the real challenge is for Black people to be able to see ourselves in not only the instances of injustice in the United States, but in injustice all over the world. And environmental injustice runs just as rampant as police brutality, just as rampant as gang violence, as white supremacy. Like, these are real manifestations, and I think it's really important for us as people of color to assert ourselves in these arenas and to broaden up that environmental spectrum and understanding what nature really consists of and how broad nature really is and the real role that we play within nature as nature.
Yeah. Well, going
I'm sorry, I just went all over the place. My bad.
No, you're fine. That brings us back to our last question. It's like, how do we, on an individual level or on a societal, global level, improve our relationship with nature, you know?
What do you think?
I mean, that's definitely a hard question. Like, and again, it really depends on, you know, who you are and where you're at in the world. But on an individual level, like, I feel like a lot of times our definition of nature is very narrow, and we only allow ourselves to appreciate nature if it's in, you know, the most holistic, wholesome form of, you know, a state park or a beautiful beach or, you know, a nice river, like for me, because there's a lot of rivers in Texas. But nature, or being in nature, can be anything, whether it's even just standing on your manicured apartment grass and like letting the sun soak up on your skin for 15 minutes or 5 minutes, however long you have. Like, I feel like we need to break these barriers and these strict definitions of what nature is. So I feel like that's the first step, you know, because if we can appreciate nature anywhere, we can see nature everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, is that a quote, Camper K?
Write that down real quick.
Yeah.
So
That was beautiful. Can you say that twice?
Ooh. I think I said, if you can appreciate nature anywhere, you can see nature everywhere. So I feel like that's a really, really key point. You know, you need to see it where you can. And then we can see it everywhere, because it is everywhere. It's like when we talked about our bodies, we talked about, you know, cities, we talked about actual nature. Like, we talked about so many different sectors. Capitalism, nature exists in all of it because, like Jody said, we are a part of it, you know. So until we kind of break down that and, you know, struggle with that, we can't really impact nature on a larger scale. So kind of, and you mentioned that too, it's on an individual level for sure. You know, this is something we need to grapple with.
Camper K, I ain't gonna lie, that shit just almost brought tears to my eyes. You like, if you can see nature, wait, I forgot. Say it again. Is it everywhere? If you can see nature everywhere, then you can see nature anywhere. No, if you can appreciate nature everywhere, then you can see nature anywhere. That is beautiful. And it's like, it helps to, I agree with you. I think it's kind of like a big question, but you just broke it down so beautifully, like in the 3 little bite-sized pieces. Like, change your definition, right, of nature, and a way to do that is to see yourself. Like, be present with yourself, you know. And damn, G, you just snap. I'm gonna let you close. You close, because you damn.
Let's
do you got some poetry you want to read today?
I was just thinking that. Hold on. While I'll look for it, let's ask Sarah and Jody if they have any tips or ideas of how to improve our relationship with nature while I look real quick.
Yeah, I think, wow, hold on. Thank you guys so much. That was so good. It's so meaningful to have these type of engagements. These conversations are so important. Thank you. Even just for the banter, all of it is so good and meaningful. And now more than ever, this is the type of, you know, nutrition we all need. You know, for me, I think everything always stems back to the state and capitalism. And as long as we look past and deconstruct conditioned identities, right? And conditioned systems, and we finally realize I am a part of the collective, I am a part of the whole. That's the first step to getting back to, you know, our authentic self. We have a conditioned self that society has just convinced us, like, this is how you access food, this is how you get information, you are American and therefore you can have any type of seasoned fruit all year round and don't question where it comes from and who it oppressed. But, you know, for me, I always go back to revolution, and no more billionaires, no more corporations that monopolize food and health and medicine. When we can finally, you know, have a working class allegiance to one another that prioritizes and protects the bodies of Black women and, you know, transgender women, then we'll be, you know, in a closer direction. But there's no sustainable capitalism. There's no concession from a system that is contingent on starvation. There's no success within a system that was built with, as long as this line on a graph touches this line, this many people have to starve. You know, that's my that's my closing rant. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
It makes
Sarah.
me think about Beyonce. Yeah, always a pleasure, Sarah. Damn. I wish this was like 2 years ago, man. That shit was so great. We lived that shit up, man. Man.
Literally.
Jody, you got some comments? How can we get back in tune with ourselves and nature? Like, how we do that? What does that even look like? Where do we start? Do we meditate to Beyonce, The Gift? Because that's what I do.
I don't know like the big answers yet, but I feel like starting out, you could just go out in communities and educate people and break down like the negative connotation, I guess, well, at least in cities, that there is with nature and your connection to nature. Because I think mostly in the cities, like people, you know, you grow up thinking like nature is something, some other thing that's completely far away from your inner city and these buildings and whatnot, but it's not. Nature is all around us because we are nature. So it's like breaking down that type of stigma and barrier in inner cities, and then educating people on nature and how they can help with, you know, their footprint and what they leave on Earth for the next generation.
Definitely. And I think that's a good definitely a good question to ask yourself too, if you're trying to figure out, like, on a very basic scale, like, is what I'm doing positive, or am I leaving a positive contribution for the next generation? And if you can honestly, to the best of your knowledge, say yes, that's like, you know, even in the hood, you feel me, which, you know, they have there are significantly less garbage cans placed on every corner in the hood than it is, you know, on the north side or whatever. But, you know, even still, like, having, like, one thing I want to start doing out here in South Shore is doing like community cleanup days, where we just take a day and everybody comes outside and pick up trash. Like, it's just whatever. And then once we show that we start caring, we can put our own garbage cans out, you know, like, we don't have to wait on people to tell us our environment is beautiful if we claim it and make it beautiful, if we just take that ownership upon ourselves. And if we have to look at it as a responsibility to the next generation to do it, then we can do that. But because that's also what it is. But I was not playing. I definitely meditate to Beyonce, The Gift, because that shit is powerful. And the first song is bigger, right? So we just said, like, checking in, knowing that everything is really bigger than you. All the things that are going on are bigger than you. And then the second one is find your way back. So deconstructing these lenses that have been placed on us, to see ourselves as different, or to see other people as the other, kind of getting rid of that. And right now I'm just kind of riding Beyonce's dick. So Camper Cam, I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah, no, this was such a great conversation, super enriching. I was just telling Kando before we started, like, I felt like it was perfect timing because yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day. So it just makes me think about, being with nature. And I feel like, and I talked about how Indigenous people had ways of cultivating the land that was more in balance and at peace. And I feel like that's what we're trying to get back to, hopefully. And I love, reading history and learning more about the Indigenous, peoples that are still alive and still here and still fighting for the land, but also historical ways of keeping the land. It's always inspirational to me. So this conversation was, a light, fuzzy feeling, and I'm so thankful for it. And it gives me hope moving forward that we can rebuild our relationship with nature that's not based on capita and gains and starvation of people and exploitation of nature. Okay, this is a short piece that I wrote after like a little hiking trip, but it's called "Remember to Take Off Your Shoes." At times, you may be trapped, enclosed, sequestered, feeling like a wilting flower or a caged wild animal. While you may not be the king of tigers, the wild lies within your grasp and spirit. So step boldly into the brilliant sun, allow the tall grass to kiss your calves hello, and remember, my dear, to take off your shoes. So, there you go.
Sarah, Jody, do either of you all have either like an appreciation for Kayla's poem or like a piece that you want to share?
That was beautiful. I'm still just
Do you have it?
absorbing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That I just have the utmost appreciation, and I love you, sisters. Thank you for doing this.
Gang. Gang. Jody, or if you all have any announcements too about where you any events coming up where you are, any events that you may have seen on Instagram that you want to shout out and let people, or Facebook, and let people know opportunities coming up and stuff. Okay, Jody said, I do not. I think her piece was splendid. Okay.
Well, I do want to have this on the recording. I'm in Texas right now, so I need witnesses that I'm going to be seeing Kayla very soon. Just that's my update.
That's what's up. You be everywhere.
Texas is where it's at. Okay.
You know what? But to our special guest, thank you guys so much for joining. You guys want to shout out your social medias? Where can people find you guys? And because we build community in everything that we do. She said, nope, I'm a loser. All right, Jody, son, what about you? Unless you go. Yes.
No, I'm gonna put it in the chat. It's
okay.
Whatever. All right. So, and of course, as always, shout out to Team Strawberries on the production, Strawberry Red Entertainment, the beautiful Charmin Jarman. We can't wait to see these final products. They're gonna be awesome. And Militia Mojo everywhere. Thank you so much, Jody. And with that being said, we are wrapping.
Have a good night, guys. A good day.